Let's speak with Rupert Lowe, Reform UK MEP, MP for Great Yarmouth. How you doing, Rupert?
I'm good, Ian. How are you?
I'm good as gold. Nice to have you with us. Well, listen, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? We were just talking to Isabel Oakeshott a moment ago about the amount of times that the Conservative Party feel the necessity to reference reform. Now, you're a party with, at the moment, 5 MPs, which is an extraordinarily successful result for a party that began really not that long ago. But clearly, you are never far from their thoughts, if we can put it like that.
Well, you're right, but we got 4.1 million votes and only 5 MPs, whereas the Lib Dems got 3.5 million and they've got 72 MPs. So, yeah, we've done well, but we've broken in and hopefully we can continue to grow, which at the moment our membership would suggest we are.
Yeah. Look,
I don't envy any of these 4 Tory leadership contenders. I think if you look at what the Tories have done with an 80-seat majority over the last few years, I mean, they've failed on absolutely everything. So they start off batting about sort of 9 down and hoping that the final tail end Charlie doesn't have his middle stump removed immediately. I mean, they failed on crime.
Yep.
They've failed on woke. I mean, you know, in my constituency, wokery is absolutely rife in a lot of the schools. I'm actually working on it at the moment, and it needs to be addressed.
Good.
They've singularly failed on taxes. I mean, we've got the highest taxes we've had for 60 years, and they're supposed to be a Conservative party. And worst of all, Ian, immigration has, since 2010, ballooned. And really, in the last 2 years, 2022 and 2023, 2.4 million people have come into this country. So having promised to deliver on all 4 of those, it is a case, I'm afraid, of watching what the hands are doing, not what the mouth is saying. And the answer is the hands very definitely haven't matched what the mouth has said. So I think the party as a whole is not at peace with itself. It's got a lot of problems. I think, you know, the fact that we've won 4.1 million votes shows you that there is a malaise and a fear in the country that they don't have the people to lead them into, or lead us into the promised land, because I put us all in the same category. We're all proud Brits. So I think it's arrogant of them to ignore the reform vote. We get criticised for even daring to stand against them. But, you know, we wouldn't be able to achieve what we've achieved if they hadn't singularly failed for the British people.
And that is, I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, there's no arguments there, really. That is a fact of the matter. Of course, going forward, if a Robert Jenrick character, and I'm thinking of characters that have made mood music that suggests they would be relaxed in working with you guys, ultimately, can you see that as a merger, simply an assistance when it comes to voting in Parliament? How do you view what some of?
I think you've got to remember, Ian, that we actually delivered them an 80-seat majority by standing down in all the seats at the last general election. And, you know, what would I do with an 80-seat majority? I think if you listen to my speech at the Reform Party conference on the 20th of September, I was very clear on what I would do. I'd do it immediately. It's not rocket science. But the problem is most of the Tories have veered to the left. They've sort of been dragged, starting with Cameron, to the left, thinking that, obviously in coalition he had the Lib Dems, and they've gone to the left thinking that, you know, following their polling, they think that's where they should be, whereas in actual fact, that's not what the Conservative Party should stand for. And what we need actually to solve the problem out is a dose of strong leadership and Thatcherite policies. Because in the end, if you don't represent and look after the interests of the British people, if you're in power, they're not going to re-elect you. And that's effectively what's happened. So I think we represent more of what I call the real people, common sense, logic, decency, all the things that Britain is famous for. And this sort of woke virus that's infected the civil service, it's infected the school teachers, it's infected the universities, it's infected the law, thanks largely to Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, Mandelson and Campbell. They are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. They started all this. by passing acts such as the Human Rights Act in 97, the Equalities Act. These are divisive acts. You know, they were aided by Derry Irvine, and they did a lot of damage to our Constitution. So whoever's going to change this has to rapidly change and reverse everything they've done, get government out of our lives, let people form their own relationships. Obviously, there has to be a safety net for those people who genuinely can't look after themselves. But, you know, there's a lot of people, of the 9 million working-age people who aren't working. That's one place to start, and immigration has to be stopped in. I mean, even the OBR, which is another quango, which effectively Rachel Reeves can't move without getting them to sign off on her business plan. They've got a lamentable track record of forecasting, but even they are now admitting that actually this migration, illegal and legal, has actually cost the country huge amounts of economic growth. Yeah. And if you don't have targeted immigration and you don't bring in skilled people, you bring in low quality people, you are ultimately, they end up being a burden on the productive part of the economy. And you're seeing it now in all the services, from the NHS to all of our government offices, whether it's HMRC, whether it's the Land Registry, whether it's almost all of them are failing because they can't cope with the number of people that are here now.
Simple as that. Rupert, on that point, thank you. Rupert Lowe, Reform UK MP for Great Yarmouth. Thank you to him.